I'm Alan Ning. I was Zorianna Kit, and today we review Midnight in the Switchgrass, now in theaters, and I believe in VOD too. Yeah, like I've always said, I like to go into a movie cold, not knowing anything about it. Hey, Bruce Willis is in this movie, and so is Emile Hirsch and Megan Fox, and I didn't realize that was Megan Fox until the end of the movie.
What?
So this is kind of a thriller, a prostitute serial killer thriller. And and I think to me it's the performances here that makes the movie. What are your thoughts on Midnight in the Switchgrass?
Wait, did you just say performances?
Well, I've gone to many of my daughter's musicals, and yes, they're all performances.
Okay, this movie has hit a low point in moviedom. I mean, the plot line is just a derivative. Everything is generic. The acting is so terrible, and it shouldn't be, because you have actors like Emile Hirsch and Lucas Haas, who've always given great performances, who are in this movie. The worst person in this movie, acting wise, is actually Bruce Willis. But the amount of screen time he has is super duper tiny. Like, when we do see him, it's kind of at the beginning to establish that, hey, Bruce Willis is in the movie, just like he's on the poster. Great. But then, like, it's pretty soon he disappears by saying, oh, he's taking early retirement, he's leaving. And he kind of disappears from the rest of the movie, only to appear at the end when his cop partner is in the hospital.
I would say, in fairness, he is in half the movie. And that's a lot more than he got in Motherless Brooklyn, which he was very good in. I think I like the performances better than you did. And I think it was solely because of these actors that I was able to make it through from start to finish. It's a 100-minute long movie. It does run slow. It runs very slow, and the action really picks up out of nowhere midway through, and when something happens to Megan Fox's character. Yeah, we've seen the prostitute serial killer movie before.
Yes, exactly.
And I'm not exactly sure what this brings to the genre, other than telling another story and having some these are high profile actors. I mean, boy, Lucas Haas has grown up. It's just I keep thinking Witness every time I see it.
Exactly. I know.
Yeah. What are we doing to this genre? How are we elevating it? And
I don't know if there's anything new to be said about this genre. I mean, the hooker serial killer story was last told in The Little Things with Denzel Washington and Jared Leto. And
that added something to the genre.
Yes, it
much
did.
More than this did.
But here, no. I mean, the female characters here are either hookers, or they're dressed like hookers, or they are the wives of some of these characters. And they all, like Bruce Willis, his wife, we never see, but he keeps saying that she wants to divorce him, and then, oh, she is divorcing him. Lucas Haas's wife keeps wondering why he has to leave for work all the time, and will he be home soon? And Emile Hirsch's wife is always calling, cradling the baby, going like, when are you coming home? Like those are those women. And then everyone else is hooker, prostitute, or Megan Fox as an FBI agent who keeps going undercover as a hooker or prostitute.
Yeah, and I think you're hitting on what I think might be the main point of the movie, maybe, is this idea that cops are overstressed and overworked. And I think that what adds to the stress in their lives is the fact that they're put on cases that are told that seem to go nowhere, and their bosses tell them just to move on. And it's that emotional connection to these cases that keeps them pushing forward to the point where they're gonna endanger their lives or get themselves fired. And okay, so I'm digging a little deep into that, but that's
you're
but again, that story has been told in other films as well.
Yeah, I think you're giving this film much more credit than it deserves. I mean, listen, it's not unwatchable. Like it's like watching something that's like it's like watching something that is not a healthy. That's not a healthy meal. Like you're gonna sit down and eat something that's like you're gonna go do a drive-through run and just get like the friest fries and the crispiest chickens and the Slurpees and the dessert, and you're gonna kind of just scarf that down and afterwards go, oh, I feel sick, but it was kind of, I'm glad I ate that stuff.
Well, I mean, we talk about the acting again. I liked the acting. I thought Megan Fox was exceptionally good, compared to other movies I've seen of hers. I was fairly drawn to this performance, and again, I didn't know it was her until really the end of the movie when the credits rolled. I'm not the biggest Megan Fox fan in the world.
Well, I thought her performance was terrible, to be honest. I mean, there's a scene that where she, as the cop, meets with the sister of the child that's been abducted and that they're looking for. And this sister is assisting Stallone, one of Sylvester Stallone's daughters. And what could have or should have been a very emotional, touching moment between a female FBI agent talking to a broken down female, probably a prostitute and a drug addict. The scene could have been very emotional between these two women who have a common goal of finding this girl. Yet everyone's line readings had, like, Megan Fox's line readings had no emotion, felt like she was just reading it, and there was no feeling. It didn't solicit any emotions from the audience. I just thought it was such a blown opportunity, and I felt that happened a lot in this movie. So many,
or maybe she's just that embittered cop. We seem to get these kind of performances from that role of the emotionless or emotionally detached cops who have to. Again, I'm projecting a lot onto this movie.
Yeah, you are. You're giving this movie so much credit. I think the only person you can give credit for in this movie is Machine Gun Kelly. I forget his real name, but he is a very successful singer, and he played this kind of pimpy guy at the beginning of the movie, and he comes back around again, and that's the movie that Megan Fox and Machine Gun Kelly met on, and they've been dating ever since. But usually, like when you look at singers or rappers or who venture into acting, there's always a little higher level of critique, I think, from us critics, because we want to know if they can cross over. And Machine Gun Kelly certainly did a great job in the two scenes that he was in.
The only other thing I would add to this is just the nature of the story, the whole prostitute serial killer. Back in the 80s, when I was kind of swinging on the Puritan end of things, and now that we've swung the exact opposite direction to this wokeism, where is the place for stories of basically trafficked women who are being victimized to a point of, they're being murdered, killed, and there's a titillation aspect to just the fact that, and it's like, we used to complain about it back when I was, deeply Christian, and now I feel like we're moving to the point where we're going to start complaining about it in the light of woke culture.
Yeah, there's a little bit of glorification here where I feel like the director spent too long of a time gazing at these types of things. Like, we don't need to see Lucas Haas sniff women's underwear or clothing that many times. We don't need to watch him cradle these women and then choke them or wrap chains around them and around their necks and hoist them and inject them with drugs. Like, there was so much of that I felt was almost like a snuff film style that glorified that I just, there were other things we could have gazed upon.
I mean,
on that.
Yeah, I mean, in the past, these scenes were very exploitative. Yeah, whatever, however you pronounce it. And I'm not sure that this, kind of corrects things, or sure, if you tone it down, does it make it any worse? I'm not saying these stories can't be told, but you do have to find that place where your story has a reason to exist within that genre, and in a way that, because clearly I don't, if you watch the way it was shot, it's not meant to titillate. It's not meant to, oh, this is for the men, as it was in the past. But, just because you tone things down doesn't necessarily make it, the story we want to see, or the story we're drawn to.
Yeah, well, I felt that we never felt any emotional connections with any of these actors, because I felt like everyone was phoning it in. Everyone was just there to collect a paycheck. And so anytime any of the characters spoke, no matter who they were, there was no sense of that these actors actually created backstories for these characters. Even when they've got a 16-year-old girl locked in a shed, chained on a mattress, half naked, wondering if she's going to die or not, I still didn't feel like that there was a reason for me to root for her to get out of there.
Yeah.
I didn't feel that, because there was no in them talking to her sister or people who knew her. You just didn't get a sense that what kind of person she was,
Yeah, and I'll again use a wrestling term, but it's cheap heat. It's the, how am I going to draw sympathy and empathy and emotion from the audience, and it's usually by putting women, children, animals in extreme danger, and and locking them in a shed and chaining them up. Yeah, that's, there are a lot of exploitation films that did the same thing.
Yeah.
And again, just because you're not showing as much skin as those did, what are you saying, or what? Yeah, I mean, what's, yeah, it's like you've got to approach the subject in a much different way.
Yes.
In order to do it. That's my feeling today.
There will be people who will say that this film is extremely misogynistic, and I just thought it was just bad, bad acting. It's not a recommend for me.
Just cinematically bad, narratively bad. Okay, yeah. So I'm guessing you didn't like the movie. And,
you don't have to guess. I'm pretty vocal about that.
So the question is, how bad? Now, you weren't impressed by the acting at all. You weren't impressed by the story. Maybe slightly offended by it. So let's try 3. Is that your baseline for?
Well, I don't, like I said, it's not unwatchable. Like it was like going through a fast food drive-through. I mean, I didn't feel like I wanted to turn off this film and go, I can't sit through this. I wanted to sit through this just to see how this whole thing was gonna wrap itself up. So I'm actually going to give it a 4. So I actually think you kind of slightly recommend it, but barely. And I think you probably gave it a 5.5 or a 6.
Yeah, I gave it a 5.5. I did enjoy the performances. I mean, it's kind of like, lemonade out of lemons. You've got some very good actors here, and it's like, this is 2021. There have been millions of films shot, millions. How is this elevating it? And I just didn't feel like, if you're not doing that, then it's like, well, thanks for making the movie, but we'll move on to the next now. So with that, be sure to like, subscribe, tell us what you thought. Maybe you think we're completely off. We want to know that. We're not afraid of criticism. Believe me, I've seen the comments. With that, let's get out of here.